Hello guys, let's now continue with the female reproductive system. A basic idea about the organs in the female reproductive system we have done. Now, continuing with that, the external genitalia of female, it is also known as vulva. Vulva is the term used for external genitalia. The main parts of vulva are mons pubis, it is a fatty mount, which is covered by skin and hair called pubic hair, a fleshy fold called labia majora, and inside the labia majora is labia minora. Now, important point here, at the anterior end of labia minora, there is a small finger-like projection which is known as clitoris. An important point about clitoris is that it is homologous to male penis. Clitoris is homologous to penis in man. So, labia minora, anterior end of labia minora. Labia minora surrounds an area which is called vestibule, and there are many glands that open in the vestibule. Some important glands are Bartholin gland, one pair of Bartholin gland on either side of vaginal opening, and small openings of small glands known as paraurethral gland. As the name paraurethral, they open around the urethral opening, and all these glands opening are in the vestibule, and vestibule is the area which is surrounded by labia minora. Now, this is what is there in the pelvis. Now, let us come to the mammary glands. We know that a pair of mammary glands are there in a female. Now, each mammary gland contains mammary lobes. These are the parts, mammary lobes. Remember, 15 to 20 in number. 15 to 20 mammary lobes are there in each breast. Now, mammary lobes contain these alveoli. These are alveoli, and what are alveoli? These are the clusters of cell. I repeat, alveoli are clusters of cells. What these cells do? They secrete milk. They are milk secreting cells. So, these are alveoli. These are clusters of cells, and all of them open into their own duct. These are the duct of alveoli, and this is a duct which collect all these ducts. Now, important, let us now learn the name of these ducts and the passage of the milk. The one which I have shown here with the purple color, these are called the mammary tubules. Mammary tubules. So, these are mammary tubules. Each alveolus, one mammary tubule. All these mammary tubule open into a common duct which is known as mammary duct. Many mammary ducts open into this wider space which is known as ampulla, mammary ampulla, and each ampulla open to the outside through this lactiferous duct. Lactiferous duct. Now, this is important, children, this is important, and this is one mammary lobe similar to this, 15 to 20 in each breast. How the milk passes? Milk is formed in the cells of alveoli, number one. Then they come into the mammary tubules, then mammary duct. Many mammary duct open into ampulla, mammary ampulla, and ampulla open to the outside through lactiferous duct. Lactiferous duct at the last, then ampulla, then mammary duct, mammary tube, and then the alveoli. Guys, after completion of the anatomy of male and female reproductive systems, a very important topic, and believe me, at least one question is expected from this topic, and this is gametogenesis. Gamete formation, gametogenesis, sperm formation, spermatogenesis, and egg formation is oogenesis. Although these two processes are marked different, but what are the common things and how we can make it easy, that I have compared the two processes here, and I believe that this will make it absolutely clear in your mind. Let's begin. So gametogenesis is formation of gametes. Site of gametogenesis, gonads. The precursor cells are the germ cells, 3G. Germ cells present in gonads and they form gametes. Okay. Now there are three common steps in gametogenesis. One is multiplication, growth and maturation. Multiplication, growth and maturation, MGM. Whether it is male or female, it is three common steps. Multiplication is division by mitosis. So this occurs by mitosis. Who will divide? Spermatogonia or oogonia. I told you yesterday that oogonia, spermatogonia, gonia means mother cell, sperm mother cell, spermatogonia, egg mother cell, oogonia. The plural is spermatogonium or oogonium. So they will divide by mitosis and will form so many spermatogonia. Then some cells of these, they will grow, and this occurs by absorption of nutrient from the surrounding. That is a growth phase. Remember, still the ploidy level of the cell is diploid. The cell started diploid, by completion of multiplication, still it is diploid. Growth is simply absorption, it is still diploid. Now comes the maturation division, and these cells mature by meiotic division. So you know that meiosis, it comprises of two divisions, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Meiosis is the reductional cell division, wherein meiosis 1 is really the reductional division, meiosis 2 is like equational division. You know about the details of these in the cell cycle classes. So after meiosis, meiosis 1, the secondary spermatocyte and secondary oocyte, and finally after meiosis 2, the final gametes, the haploid gametes are formed. So this is an outline of gametogenesis. I told you multiplication, it occurs by mitosis. The site of this is gonads. Spermatogonia, they divide by mitosis in the testes, and remember, this starts at puberty. The important points to note down here is spermatogenesis occurs in the testes, and spermatogenesis begins only at puberty. Before puberty, no spermatogenesis. Then after the growth phase, they become the primary spermatocyte, and then the maturation phase, meiosis 1 division, they become secondary spermatocyte. This is the reduction, here is the reduction in the number of chromosomes. So first time the secondary spermatocyte, it has got 23 chromosomes, but all dyad. To make them monad or single stranded, the second meiotic division is required. So after the meiotic second division, they become the haploid cells with single chromatid, and they are called the spermatid. So this occurs at puberty. Now comparing this with the oogenesis, the terms are same, but there are some very important points to notice here. This occurs in the ovaries, but when does it start? Very, very important. Oogenesis start just before birth. I repeat, oogenesis start before birth in the embryonic life. Oogenesis start in the embryonic life. When the girl embryo was developing, oogenesis begin there, and many million oocytes, the immature oocytes, are formed in the embryonic life. So the multiplication phase in oogenesis occurs in the embryonic life. It continues, the absorption phase also occurs in the embryonic life. Now the maturation phase, here is a check to notice here that the meiotic first division begins in the embryonic life. We know that the prophase 1 is the longest substage of meiosis 1. It comprises of leptotene, zygotene, pachytene, diploatine, diakinesis. We know that. It get arrested, oogenesis get arrested at diploatine stage of the prophase 1. So, before birth it stopped there. A girl baby is born with too many at the time of birth, about 1 to 2 million in each ovary. Such immature cells are there. They are not yet become secondary oocyte, because only after completion of the meiotic first division they will be called a secondary oocyte. So, they are just about to become secondary oocyte, but they have stopped at diploatine substage of prophase 1 of meiosis 1. A girl is born like that. I told you many million, 1 to 2 million in each. Before birth around 7 million in each, around 7 million, but then at the time of birth 1 to 2 million in each ovary. Don't bother that the woman has to make so many ova in her life. No, many of them, 99% of them degenerate. There is degeneration of these follicles, which is called follicular atrasia. Atrasia means degeneration. So, let us coming to the numbers. Before birth about 7 million, at the time of birth 1 to 2 million in each ovary, and then the girl is growing. At the time of puberty there are about 60,000 to 80,000 such follicles are present in each ovary. Now, remember, till that time it is arrested at diploatine, and now due to surge of certain hormones this begins. So, at puberty the further development, the further formation of the egg begins, and that is the beginning of menstrual cycle in girls. Each menstrual cycle means there is development of one egg. Remember, in each menstrual cycle or the monthly cycle there is formation of one egg. It starts from diploatine stage. So, it is arrested at diploatine stage, and then it begins and the meiotic first division gets over. Can you please tell me what is the name given to the cell when meiosis first is over? Come on, what is that? Yes, it is secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte has to undergo meiotic second division. It is a sort of equational division. The prophase second completed, metaphase second completed, and here the development get arrested, the cycle, the cell cycle get arrested. Second time it get arrested in the menstrual cycle, during the menstrual cycle at metaphase 2. So, remember, at ovulation or during the time of ovulation, ootids are not released, completely haploid cells are not released. What are released? Secondary oocytes. Actually, they are secondary oocytes. Yes, they have 23 chromosomes, but the DNA is still 2C. Now, the completely haploid cell means they have N, 23 chromosome, and the DNA should also be like a haploid cell, that is C content of DNA. That occurs after meiosis second, but all eggs are released at secondary oocyte stage. When does the meiotic second division completes? When does it begin from metaphase 2 and then the telophase 2 gets over? Remember, that occurs when the sperm enters the ovum during fertilization. Still, the syngamy has not taken place. Still, the intermingling of the chromatin has not taken place. Just before that, there is completion of meiotic second division and the liberation of the second polar body. Some very important points to ponder here in gametogenesis. What I am doing, I am comparing the spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So that way it is very easy to understand. Now, in spermatogenesis, primary spermatocyte divide to form secondary spermatocyte divide to form spermatids. Here, one primary spermatocyte will give rise to 4 spermatids. How? This is an equal division, okay, and then like this. So starting from one primary spermatocyte, it will give rise to 2 secondary spermatocytes, and each secondary spermatocyte will form spermatids. It will form spermatids. So from 1 we get 4, and it is an equal division. Wherein in oogenesis it is not like that. In oogenesis, one primary oocyte give rise to only one secondary oocyte. Why it is so? Remember, in oogenesis, the division is called unequal because of this, and in spermatogenesis, the division is called equal because just now you have seen that 2 equal secondary spermatocytes are formed, and each secondary spermatocyte is giving rise to 2 equal spermatids. It is not like that in oogenesis. One primary oocyte give rise to one secondary oocyte and the first polar body, PB polar body, first polar body. What is this polar body and why it is formed? Try to understand. Egg is the largest cell in the human body. After completion of the first meiotic division, entire cytoplasm is retained by one cell. Only the nuclear content is extruded out as the first polar body. So there is literal formation of only one secondary oocyte, and the other one is the polar body, which is not going to become which is not going to help in formation of gametes. What happens to that? In most of the species, it gets degenerate, where in some it further divides into 2, but in human beings, it is known that it degenerates. What happens to the secondary oocyte? The secondary oocyte then completes meiotic second division. Here also it is unequal, one ooted and the second polar body is extruded. So, did you notice how many cells are formed, how many oocytes are formed? One primary oocyte give rise to only one ooted. Let us see that. One primary oocyte divides to form one secondary oocyte and the first polar body. This secondary oocyte further divides unequally to form one ooted and the second polar body. Second polar body. So here the ratio is 1 to 1, wherein in spermatogenesis 1 is to 4. If question comes like how many cells are required to form 30 sperms, so you can calculate similarly. Also note down here that there are 2 arrests in oogenesis. The first arrest took place at diplotin when in the embryonic life, during the embryonic life, and it remains in this stage only, in status quo till birth. After that, even after birth, it remains in status quo till puberty. At puberty, when menarche occurs, when menstrual cycles begin, then it continues from this diplotin further. Now, every follicle in one menstrual cycle, one follicle then completes or overcome the diplotin, then diakinesis, then the metaphase first, anaphase first, telophase first. Then first polar body is extruded. First polar body is extruded during the menstrual cycle. Then begins meiotic second division. Prophase second completed, metaphase second completed, but then it got arrested here and it remains like that till ovulation. It is released from the ovary in this stage only. Yes, the number of chromosomes are 23, but the C value, the DNA content, has not attained the real haploid status. So, primary spermatocyte, one primary spermatocyte gives rise to 4 spermatids. It's an equal division, and then some points to ponder here. This spermatid is immature, undifferentiated. It differentiates while it is still connected to this cell, the nurse cell, Sertoli cell. While it is still connected to that, it gets differentiated and becomes the real sperms. This differentiation of spermatids into spermatozoa is known as spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis. Spermatids to spermatozoa, differentiated. When they have a head, they have a middle piece, they have a tail, well differentiated sperms. These spermatozoa still remain attached to the Sertoli cell, and a time comes they are then released from here. They get detached from the Sertoli cell and released out from the seminiferous tubule. This detachment and release of sperms out of the seminiferous tubule is termed as spermiation. So, very important 2 points here, spermiogenesis and spermiation. The very word spermatogenesis is simply formation of sperms from spermatogonia, that is spermatogenesis. Within that, the differentiation of spermatid to the differentiated sperms, that is called spermiogenesis, and the release of sperm out of the seminiferous tubule is known as spermiation. Guys, very important, hormonal control of spermatogenesis. At what time it begins? It begins at puberty. What happens at puberty, or why it begins at puberty? The answer is because there is a surge in the level of a hormone called GnRH. What is GnRH? It is a releasing hormone, and it is released from hypothalamus. Now, when GnRH is released, as the name, it is a gonadotropin releasing hormone. There will be release of gonadotropin. So, there will be release of gonadotropins. And these are the pituitary gonadotropins. They are released from anterior pituitary. Please note that the gonadotropins are, what are the gonadotropins? We have LH and FSH. So, there is follicle stimulating hormone, and one hormone is called the luteinizing hormone. Remember, it is also known as interstitial cell stimulating hormone. I believe that in men, ICSH is a more appropriate term than LH. Remember that these FSH then act in the gonad, and in the gonad they act upon a cell called Sertoli cell. Sertoli cells, the nerve cells, wherein the LH or ICSH acts upon a cell in the gonads called Leydig cells. I remembered this L goes with this L, so they are LH stimulate the Leydig cell. And recall that what these Leydig cells produce. Leydig cells produce androgens, testosterone. And androgens are required for spermatogenesis. Remember, this is required for for spermatogenesis. The Sertoli cells also release certain factors, and these factors, they help in the process spermiogenesis. Students, I want you to recall what is spermiogenesis. That is a transformation of a spermatid, an immature cell, into a differentiated sperm is spermiogenesis. Factors released from Sertoli cells, they help in the formation of, or they help in spermiogenesis. Also remember the hormonal control here, how the control takes place. You know that there is a feedback control mechanism operating in our endocrine system. There is a negative feedback to control the level of hormone. So remember, to control the level of FSH, the Sertoli cells release a hormone by the name inhibin. And inhibin then inhibits the GnRH release from hypothalamus, and thereby controlling the right amount of FSH in the blood. The level of LH is controlled directly by the level of androgens by a negative feedback system. If the level of androgens rise beyond the threshold, then again it will negatively impact the release of GnRH, thereby controlling the level of LH. So if it goes beyond the threshold, it will inhibit GnRH, hence the level of LH can be controlled. So this is a hormonal control mechanism, and this is how the level of these hormones and the process remains in a well coordinated and a well controlled way. After release from the seminiferous tubules, these spermatozoa, they become motile, further maturation. Remember, the secretions of vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and prostate, they secrete certain factors which help in the maturation and motility of sperm. They help in maturation and motility of sperms. Motility of sperms. All these accessory glands and the main contribution from the seminal vesicle constitute a fluid called seminal plasma. Sperms along with the seminal plasma constitute semen. What is semen? Semen is sperms along with the medium, which is called seminal plasma, which is produced by these accessory glands, into which seminal vesicle contribution is maximum. Please note that in one ejaculate, a man releases somewhere around 200 to 300 million spermatozoa. In a single ejaculate, a man releases about 200 to 300 million spermatozoa. Now, how many are required for fertilization? Only one. But for that, for the fertilization to occur, 60% of them should have normal shape and size. And out of these 60%, 40%, so then 40% of these should have vigorous motility, should be vigorously motile. 60% should have normal shape and size, the structure, and 40% of the remaining, I mean of the 60%, they should have vigorous motility. The structure of a differentiated sperm, the head has got a structure, cap-like structure called acrosome. Acrosome contains hydrolytic enzymes which are required for fertilization. The enzymes required for the dissolution of zona pellucida, a membrane around the ovum, acrosome. This part is called the head of the sperm. The head of the sperm contains the nucleus. Remember, the nucleus is a haploid nucleus. Also note down that there are a couple of centriole. The proximal centriole remains like that, but the distal centriole forms this axial filament. So, this is the axial filament. Remember, the axial filament has 9 plus 2 arrangement of microtubules. A question once asked in the NEET examination. It contains 9 plus 2 arrangement of microtubules. So, it begins from this part till the tail region. It is also inside the tail region. So, head, this part is called the neck, and this part is an important part called the middle piece. Middle piece. Now, remember, the middle piece contains mitochondria. Numerous mitochondria, and all these mitochondria are in a sheath called Nebenkern, and that sheath is spiral around the axial filament. So, mitochondria, they are in the spiral fashion, many mitochondria, and these mitochondria, they produce ATP for the functioning of the sperm. This part of the sperm is called the tail. Actually, it is a flagellum. That's the only cell in humans that has a flagellum, is male spermatozoa. We have a lot of cilia. At various places we have cilia, but flagellum is only limited in male spermatozoa. So, that is about the structure of a sperm.